All right, excellent. Did you guys do anything fun for Pioneer Day?
Um, I had work off, but mostly I was, um, well, actually, I did work an extra shift and then did some painting for a project. Did you do anything fun?
Well, the whole day was kind of normal, and then that night, I know there were on July 4th, we went to a park, and just looking around one side of the horizon, we saw four different fireworks displays, and they were all skyrockets and stuff like that. And so for the 24th, I didn't know what to expect, but the dog stayed inside cowering in the laundry room because there were some heavy duty fireworks going off. It's kind of fun. You sit out on your porch and watch the sky lit up by that kind of thing. That's great. My mom was a licensed pyrotechnician, and so I love big explosions like that when they're controlled. An
That's so
important
fun.
distinction. Yeah, the rest of the day was a regular work day, which was nice to get some stuff done. Well, we are in the last week of class, and let's see, the 8th is Friday. What I want to do is talk about the final today and talk about what people are turning in and stuff like that, and um, answer any questions that uh, I think people are having. And then I did want to tell people too, we are scheduled for a class Wednesday. It is not a required class because the final will be online. But if you do want to go and get graded for attendance for Wednesday, then you will get extra points. But if you don't watch it, you aren't going to lose any points. So effectively, extra credit. I did want to mention something. I've been really pleased. A lot of people, when I say go through and make these changes, or this doesn't quite fit the assignment, most everybody is going through, rereading the assignment, and then tweaking it. And that's been really good to see. Shows me people are paying attention. There have been a couple assignments where I don't believe the people read the assignment description all the way or watched our class discussion where we talked about it. So if you did not get a very good score on something that you turned in, first look at my notes. If it's something isn't very clear, make an appointment with me and we will talk through on Teams or FaceTime or whatever. And that has been really good at solving like 99% of any miscommunication. But I would highly recommend also go circling back around and rereading what the assignment calls for, and then just make those changes. The most common thing is something kind of silly, actually, where somebody will just turn in the completely wrong assignment for that particular thing. Like for people have turned in the essays for both a work log and attendance. The attendance only needs a 5 item list, not an essay. But that when that does happen, they get a 0. But just a reminder, go back sure and make sure that you turn in the right assignment. And it's one of those things, I think everybody's in the class has done it at least once, where they've turned in the wrong assignment, gotten a 0, read it, and then said, oh yeah, I needed to turn in this one instead. Not a big deal. And I did want to remind people that if you change something in the discussion, like if I'm asking for you to um, do the comments and then email me, sending me a message via the discussion, that message does not get to me. When you let me know that an assignment's been redone, you need to email me. and let me know that way. Otherwise, I don't. I've hit all the right toggles and everything like that, but for some reason, I can't see those messages getting to me. But and then another thing I wanted to do as well is look through submissions of the sculptures and look at the some of the peer and self critiques. So that's now I thought I had queued up or teed up everything and I had not. So I'm going to fiddle with stuff. Give me just a second here. So Emily, are you one of the people that sent in the wrong assignment?
I don't think I have, but I have had made other blunders, but I haven't made that one.
Okay, because almost everybody else has in the class. They've put the wrong assignment in the wrong, or submitted the wrong assignment for points. And that's, yeah, if I'm looking for a work log, if the assignment calls for a work log and somebody gives me an essay, then it's a good sign that they just need to go back and double check. I am impressed as well because a lot of people have submitted their late assignments, and those have been coming in a lot of attendance and things like that. That is great. As a reminder, the attendance is watch the video, and the people that have misunderstanding on the assignment description, it looks like they haven't watched the class discussions either. So I would recommend go back and listen to that, and that clarifies a lot of things for a lot of people. Okay, I am going to go. If or I should before we go into the final, Emily, do you have any questions about any of that stuff right now?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. All right. The final ends midnight next Friday, the 8th. Today is the final official class day for the course. And I believe that I've got to double check the UVU calendar. But I know that that's the last day, and I'm just double checking to see what the first day is. So let's see. Okay, official term end. Right. Okay, last day of class. Okay. Finals are supposed to go from Tuesday through Friday, I believe, for this summer. So what I will do is late Monday night open up the final page for everybody, and I'll send an email to everybody to let them know that it's open. And then you have 4 days to accomplish the final and then submit it by Friday midnight. And this is what the final is. It's basically 4 questions. Each of the questions must be answered with at least a 50-word answer with a total of at least 200 words. And you can go over, that's fine, but you will lose points for going under. So if you only do 35-word answer on one and then an 85-word answer on the other, yeah, the word count is higher than what the total word count is supposed to be, but you will lose points if you don't do at least the minimum for each individual question. And it's actually not that difficult to get this in. Uh, what is really important to understand is that if you choose not to do the final, you can lose an entire letter grade, uh, according to department mandate, and that can be bad. So please do not miss the final. Even if you don't have all your projects done by Friday at midnight, you must get the in by Friday at midnight. I would also, if you are um, struggling to get everything done, and you've already talked to me, I think most people I've given like a 3-day extension. If you're one of those people that need that extension, I want to make sure that you understand that that Canvas will keep you from accessing Canvas after Friday at midnight. After August 8th, Friday at midnight, I don't think you can make any changes into Canvas. So if you need to turn stuff in after that, all the assignments that you're missing, if it's quizzes or whatever, you'll need to copy them out. And then when you submit, you'll need to label each submission as a separate file and email it to me if you're going to be submitting after Friday at midnight. The only things that you cannot submit after Friday at midnight are going to be basically the discussions, because you won't have access to the discussions anymore. So do whatever you need to at least get those discussions submitted so you can get points for that. Everything else we can do through email. Again, not the discussions. It doesn't allow me to make any exceptions for that. If you do need more time than Friday at next Friday at midnight, please do let me know. Like I said, I do have 3 days that I can work with, and I would rather you get credit for the work that you're doing and that you've done than missing out on it just because you're a couple days late. So these are the 4 questions that you're going to be answering, and it is important to remember that you need to follow these directions. This is not a difficult assignment. It's not a difficult final, but it is required. So think about that. Think about the projects that you've done. You're going to be talking about the greatest challenge, the greatest success, the biggest surprise, and the principle that you will take from the course and use in your future career as an artist or whatever else you're going to be. So Emily, does that all make a lot of sense? Is that clear?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
All right, good. All right. What I would like to do now is go through our discussion board and look at people's submissions for their final projects. And we've had a couple that we talked about what this project entails quite a bit, and there's some things that I think are really on the verge that just need a little bit more work put on them. And like this one, I think is absolutely beautiful on the stand and everything. And by itself, it's wonderful. But I want to point out that this assignment calls for application of both color and texture. And Dow, I'm really glad that hers was the first one. That's the one that I referred to because it uses a lot of different texture, a lot of different color. I think this one is really beautiful. I love it. And by itself as a sculpture, it's wonderful. However, for this assignment, this, I believe, needs to be addressed. You can tell that it's that tetradic color scheme that they're using. And on this one, I think there is just the one texture that's been applied. And as we've talked about this, and in the assignment, we're talking about pulling out the stops, applying a lot of texture, a lot of things like that. And I think with this one, This either these areas, some of them can be more texture can be added to. I think that would be one thing because we need to have more than just one texture. And it might also be interesting to, before adding texture to it, consider about painting these things too. And if you don't want to, if you want to just add texture to it, that's your call. But this assignment is supposed to be texture and color. And I wanted to make sure that people understand that this by itself is a beautiful object. And if we're just grading on the object itself, this is great. But the assignment itself calls for application of both color and texture. And that's what we're looking for. So there's only the one texture applied to this, and none of the color is on it. What I would recommend for this person is, we can talk through different ideas. And it might be as simple as painting these to kind of continue the colors in the strips underneath, and then applying textures to some of these in patches and stuff so we can see a lot of texture applied. So I want to point out again that if you don't get all the points you think you deserve, it's not because what you've made is a bad object. It's because it doesn't quite fit the parameters of the assignment. So, Emily, is that clear?
Yeah, I'm glad that you went over that with this example because mine is a little similar in that I painted what the paper mache sculpture turned out, and then I'm gluing things on top of it. And I'm glad you showed an example that's similar because that helps me um, know what I should do.
Well, and it's sometimes it's just a matter of stepping away for a minute and then coming back to it. But these things are not designed necessarily to look show worthy. That's not where we're going. We're experimenting and playing with ideas within the parameters of the assignment. So by itself, this is a beautiful sculpture. It's great, but it needs more done to it so it fits in with those parameters of the assignment. And that's it. Now for this with the discussion too, I wanted to remind people that for full points, um, you need to follow the directions on the three descriptions you're offering for each of three other students. So I wanted to, this is the outline for this discussion. You're going to write 80 words for each critique, and you're going to pick three other works, this works of three other students, and write an 80-word critique for each of them as outlined. And you're going to be referencing those four tools of artistic critique: describe, analyze, interpret, and evaluate. Okay, and remember, critical or critically thought means intentional and not mean. You're not telling somebody how they can improve their thing. You're just describing it in one paragraph, analyzing it, interpreting, and evaluating. And each of those paragraphs are going to average 20 words long. So the whole thing is going to be about 80 words. I would recommend very heartily against using AI for this because AI finds it very difficult to articulate your opinion and your observations. So that's something that is going to be easiest for you to do as you instead of with the AI, because it's going to take a lot longer and a lot more thought to generate a prompt that is powerful enough and consistent enough that it can actually follow these parameters and sound like it's your opinion. So remember that, but you don't just do one, you're going to do one for each of three other students. You're not going to do your own. You're going to pick three other things to write this on. So I hope that that is clear as well. And we're going to go back and just look at a couple of these. I think all of these are really interesting. This one I think is fascinating because they did use a lot of their other sculptures in this. We can see the structure and skin and the wire. However, this one doesn't seem to have a clear color scheme with the paper mache, with the biomorphic sculpture. It hasn't been painted. with any sort of color. It's just still the newsprint there. So with this one, I would recommend like separating this out, maybe cutting it open, um, applying color to the sculpture first, and maybe reflecting some of the color that you show in the structure and skin, then reassemble it, and maybe use this wire so that the wire, instead of sticking on top, engulfs this, and then both of those become textures. And I think that working that out, I think that could be really interesting. So that's a suggestion for that one. This one I think is really fascinating. I think it's a beautiful piece. And this is another one of those where if it's just by itself, it's great, but it doesn't quite fit all the way with the parameters of the assignment. Because yeah, we have one texture here. We have the starting of another texture with the flowers, but then we have this whole swath that doesn't have texture on it very much at all. It's just paint. I love that they have added this. This is from an earlier wire sculpture that they did, and they used a lot of stuff that was from earlier pieces. And I think that looking at that is great. And I love how they combine this with that right through there. I think that looks really good. What I would like to see for this is it would be very cool to get more of these flowers. And instead of adding this just so it's a flower area, add a lot of this so that maybe there's a whole ruffle that comes out around this like a collar to make that generate a texture there. Or maybe they add a lot more flowers in a swath that goes from the moss area down through the wood, the bark area. The other issue that I'm not entirely clear about the color scheme that they've picked from the color wheel that we used. One thing I do like is that there is some variation in the color. It's not just a solid color. And I think that that looks really interesting. But I do think that this does need to work a little bit on integrating a greater variety of textures to it. And I think that that would be really good. Again, another example of a really cool thing that doesn't quite fit the parameters of the assignment. I think this one is really fascinating to me. One of the, I'll tell you a couple things I like about this is they did use a color scheme and they did some really fun textures, applying a lot of fun textures. So we've got, and it wasn't just a puffball here and there. It wasn't a feather here and there. It was an area of texture. Like they really decorated that stand piece of foam that you have so that it ties in with the color scheme going on. And I love how they did the counterpoint of the blue. Um, what is that called? There's a
Like
word for it.
tinsel.
Tinsel, yes, thank you. I was going to say it's a word that only pops in my brain around Christmas time. But yeah, I love what they're doing there. I think that that is really a lot of fun. And what has frustrated me in the past sometimes is people will have a great idea like this, but not carry it through. Like they'll put a puffball here, this kind of puffball there, a couple of these things, a strand of beads. What this person did that was really fun is they used the strand of beads as a texture. And the way they succeeded was by making it a big patch. And this, this does feel patchy. Things aren't blending into each other, but I don't know if that's a bad thing because the colors kind of carry through. It's all very warm. It's all very, um, you have the warmer colors, and it's all very energetic as well. And I think the photo is well done. They used a sheet for an infinity screen, placed it well, and did a pretty good job with that as well. So I think that this turned out pretty good. Is this making sense, Emily?
I just had a question. It looks like everyone is like also kind of texturing and coloring the stand for their object. Is that something you want us to do for
If
like
you'd like to,
everything?
if you'd
Okay.
like to, and that is totally fine. If you don't want to, that is fine too. Not a big deal. And here's Dow's. Again, as a reminder, for this assignment to be complete, you'll need to go back through and make comments on the work of 3 other students. And it looks like to me that there's about 4 or 5 submissions. So people that already submitted can make those comments right now. And as people submit, as when they stay, when they put their piece online, they can just stay and write out the 3 commentaries for the different sculptures. So this, what I'm seeing so far shows me that people are paying attention and they are trying and they're working hard. So I'm really appreciating the effort that people are putting in. And if again, I want to reiterate, even if your work is really good and solid, if it doesn't quite fit the parameters of the assignment, I can't give you the points for the assignment because it hasn't been met. And I did want to mention one thing, that there have been a couple of people that turned in the annotated bibliography, and they did an absolutely astounding job. Remember a month ago, Emily, I went through and just I was going to say a swear word. I beat the living daylights out of that assignment, describing all the things that can go wrong, all the simple ways that people have made mistakes and had to re-edit. With the most recent submissions, I haven't seen that. People have gone through, they've double checked everything we talked about. They've made sure that their submission is right up there and great. And if you're missing a point or two, I mentioned why, but most of the people that have been turning those in, I'm so glad you went through and re-edited because it looks really good. Everybody's been doing a great job. Now, what I want to do is go through and I want to go through and watch the peer and self critiques that we've gotten, and we'll watch each one, because this is something that if it's a live class, we always talk about it live in class, and of course we don't have a live class, which makes that difficult. But we're going to talk about it while we're here together tonight, so you guys can watch them all. And I thought I queued these up. It's, I don't know, my brain is like a pachinko machine, and sometimes I'm convinced that I did something when actually I just planned it out. It's so frustrating. Let me get here, almost there. All right. Okay. I hope that people have gotten something worthwhile out of watching the critiques and the other things that we've watched. And what I'm seeing is that the things that people have turned in have been really good. So that is great. So please make sure that you get these done. So we are going to go ahead now and switch over and watch these. All right. Can you see this, Emily?
Yep.
Okay. Gonna go ahead, turn the volume on, and we're gonna watch this.
In this image, we can see that she has created a tree sculpture out of her wire. So we can see that she has twisted the wire to create the trunk and branched that out into these branches. She has also tied in some different beading. So it looks like she has looped the wire through some beads to create a sense of foliage around the ends of the branches. At the base of the tree, we can also see that she has included some moss or some grass and has added a little bit more texture with that as well. it looks like the grass kind of contrasts with the texture of the wire. Since she has twisted the wire, the grass is a little bit softer looking. It's a little bit less uniform. So I think that is a nice contrast there. I also like the color that she has included here, where she used the silver wire, but then she added these blue beads and the green grass, just kind of that bright contrast against the silver wire accentuates that color a little bit more. And I really enjoy the contrast that she has created against the background in the photograph as well. We can see that through the twisting of the wire, she has created a little bit more visually interesting component to this tree. And I like that there is some difference between the different branches. Not all of them are created with the same amount of twisted wire. They have varying lengths and thicknesses. And I think it's a nice resemblance of a real tree that you would see in nature, because your younger branches are going to be a little bit thinner, appear more fragile, versus obviously the trunk of the tree and anything toward the center. She has also really activated the space around this tree. It's not just a symmetrical or uniform shape. She has really created that 3D volume as well as the depth, with the variation in how far the branches extend, how some of them are more curved, where some are straighter and extend out in different directions. So I appreciate that there is some asymmetry here. And with the way that this is photographed too, we can see that some of the beads that are a little bit closer to the camera are a little bit more blurred, while the main form is more focused. And I think that this also adds to that sense of depth, as like the things that we're really, really close to are a little bit more difficult to focus on, and the things that are in the central part of the image or of the structure are a little bit easier to make out. So I appreciate how this is photographed and how that adds to the depth and that three-dimensionality here. I think that this is an interesting approach to a wire sculpture as well, because she has created so much depth in this form and has not simply made it just a 2D outline of a tree. So I think that this could have a little bit of a like tree of life interpretation to it, just as we grow, as we branch out in different directions and spread our roots. And there is a lot of depth to us as people as well. And I think that this is overall incredibly well done. Again, I really, really enjoy the contrast of the colors that she used, as well as the contrast against the really dark background in this photograph to make those colors really stand out. And I think that the actual technique that she has employed here is incredibly well done. There was a lot of attention and care in how these wires were twisted and attached to each other and shaped, in that it is still very neat. There was obviously a lot of technique applied, even though that there is that asymmetry going on. There was a lot of attention to how this all came together, and just that little extra way that she has added those beads into, I think really adds to the overall form and gives a sense that she did put a lot of time and effort into this. And
Okay, let's talk about that just a little bit. My thought on this is that I really appreciate the clarity of thought as Nicole was critiquing this object. She didn't stop and say, now I'm going to be doing this tool, now I'm going to be applying this tool. She just went through from start to finish and talked about it everything was really well thought. Everything was precise and articulate, and I really appreciate that. And this is one of those things where whether or not you agree with somebody, it makes it a lot difficult to argue with them when they're precise, when they're articulate. And I want you, that's a good lesson for everybody to remember as well, because the better you learn this lesson, the better you learn how to speak up for yourself and articulate your own perspective. Somebody may just be able to disagree with you, but they won't be able to argue effectively with you because you've already made all the points. And I kind of like, as an artist, I kind of like having that power, because then all the person can basically say is they don't like your work because neener. And that, I mean, which makes them look like an idiot. So that's one of the things that I like about how articulate Nicole is in this. And I saw that she did visit all the points, and she was able to also do it in a way that it just felt naturally flowing. So that was well done. What's your take, Emily?
I love that she, like you said, she didn't pause to. It sounded like she rehearsed it or had something written down, like it was very well spoken. And I like that she also brought in critiquing the photography of the item as well.
Yeah, and this is one thing, this artist, particular artist, has done a couple photos with that background, I believe, and it just sets it apart from other people. And I think it classes up the photo a bit, is what I think. That's my take. I just, when you guys take the time to make a good photo, it really stands out. And yeah, I appreciate you saying that. That's a good point. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go on to the next one. Okay, here we go. And this is a peer critique by Sam.
That's so this is the critique for another student's work, and I chose Dao Wynn's wire sculpture because I thought her work throughout the semester was really, really awesome. And yeah, this one was one of my favorites. So for the description, I would say it is a wire sculpture with multiple different widths and colors of wire. And it appears to be like some sort of water buffalo or cow with a figure playing a flute. And it looks like there's some sort of like text box or like audio bubble coming from the flute, which is really, really fun. The cow has these small wires at the end of the tail to give like hair. And that feels like really, really in depth, and like a lot of like really these hidden small details in here. Like the curl of this wire right here to give this like a very fun like feeling swirl. I would say it's somewhat realistic in its forms, but it's definitely abstracted and like simplified down. And the mood of this is very, it's not serious. I'll give it somewhat of like a, what is the mood? It's almost nostalgic, or like makes me want to like travel, or like some sort of like rustic or like East Asian, I don't know, just like water buffalo vibes, I guess. That's the only way I can really describe how it makes me feel. So for analysis, I think the choice of like the black wire to give the outlines was really smart. And it definitely leads your eye to what it wants you to like feel, in that it's like an animal shape here, a ground or water, like water lily forms. And like I think the black wires definitely give like the strength of it. And then like the subtle, like very, very like small thin wires gives like the meat of like the form and composition. My interpretation, I think I'm just gonna go straight on, like I interpret this how it is looking. Like I interpret this just simply as a character like on a water buffalo, like just playing the flute and like having fun. If I knew like the story of like her life and maybe what these like characters or like symbology means, I think that'd be like one of the instances where an artist's story definitely adds to the piece, because I'm engaged in the sense that I really want to know like the thought process and like what was going on here, because I think her work again is really really cool. My judgment, I think it's very successful. I mean, it made me feel bad for how like crappy and low effort mine were, and I just think just a judgment overall, she goes like out of her way to make like really really cool pieces. And so I think it's very successful, especially for like student submitted work. I think this is could easily go in galleries. I've seen way worse in galleries. So I think it is very successful, and it brings, I don't know, just an energy I'm not used to seeing for sure, at least in Utah. And yeah, I'll judge this a 10 out of 10. It's a really good one.
All right, what did you think about that one?
Well, he covered everything.
Yeah, he definitely covered everything. I thought that was really good. And he got a little personal too.
Yeah.
It was interesting when he was saying, "Yeah, looking at her work just makes me feel like I really did low effort stuff." And it's when you get praise from another artist, it hits totally differently, I think. Because if somebody looks at a medium I'm working in and says, "Oh, that's nice," that's one thing. But if it's somebody who has spent a lifetime learning that and working in a similar medium to what I'm doing, and they look at it and say, "I really like that," it means something completely different. Like if you're an actor and you get somebody else, another actor that you really look up to, telling you that they love the play you were in, I mean, it really it means something. And I thought that's kind of I thought that was a little bit more honest than what we are typically doing when we do these. I thought that was good. But yeah, I appreciated the way. And the other thing that I noticed about what Sam was doing is just like Nicole, he was also pretty precise with his word usage. So that is really good. And that's something that I'm noticing with people in this semester. All of you are really conscious of how you use and apply your words. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I think it was Heidegger who said that once we choose to use a word, we choose not to use 1,000 others. And what he was trying to get people to think about their precision in speaking. But I think that you guys appear to be really aware of that, and it's really good to see. So thank you for that, by the way. All right, let's go on to the next one. Give me just a second here. Excellent. Okay, Emily, can you see this?
Yep,
Okay.
I can see it.
All right. So this is Self-Critique by Nicole.
See a very abstracted sculpture. It looks like this could potentially be carved out of maybe styrofoam, just due to the styrofoam block that it is mounted on. With those similar colors, it appears that the actual form itself might have been carved from a similar styrofoam piece. Overall, this whole image feels very organic. We have a lot of curvilinear forms, and I like the use of some negative space here as well in how these forms sort of curve around each other. as the whole piece sort of comes in toward the center where there might be what could be seen as maybe a neck. You have some space hollowed out on the sides as well as in the front lower portion of the piece. So it sort of gives an image of maybe two almost humans or just some sort of organic forms embracing or dancing, just kind of moving and twisting together. So in this front form that is closer to the viewer, you can see what might be perceived as legs, and those lead up to a neck and head, and then that form is perhaps carrying or dancing with another more organic form. Overall, it is a very smoothed out piece, though there are not any rough spots of texture. There are not any sharp edges or corners. The whole thing is very rounded, very smooth. It seems like the artist took a lot of time to ensure that every inch of this was touched by sandpaper and really paid attention to make sure that everything was smoothed out. I think it does kind of accentuate those negative spaces as well, just because you don't have any awkward spots jutting out anywhere. The whole piece feels very balanced, even though it is asymmetrical and overall very abstracted. So there's nothing in nature that I can think of that this would be modeled after. So the idea that it's maybe two organic forms of some sort, maybe two people embracing or moving together, is just my own interpretation of it. Again, there's not really anything I can think of that this would emulate outside of that. It seems like the artist wanted to maybe play on some themes of intimacy, just with how these forms are twisted together. Again, it seems like they could be embracing, they could be dancing, one could be carrying the other. Either way, the whole thing just feels very gentle, very tender. There's a lot of care within these forms, as well as care given by the artist to really ensure that this whole thing came together with a lot of good technique. So a lot of effort put into this, and I think that these forms moving together just carries through that idea of care and gives that feeling to the viewer as well.
Okay, I wanted to, let's see if I can,
In this image, we can see.
there we go. Okay, I think that Nicole did a really good job again on this. Very nice and solid critique. It was difficult to tell that it was hers because Nicole was able to step back and talk about it as if it was somebody else's, which again is very, very difficult to do. And it was really interesting. The different things that she spoke about it were different things that I wanted to talk about it too if I was doing the critique. And very well done, very articulate, and very precise. So Emily, what's your take? What did you think about this?
That was also my thought, was that she did a really good job of not getting distracted by the fact that she made it. Like, even from the very beginning when she's like, it looks like it could be made out of foam. I was like, you made it, so you
Yeah.
know it's out of foam. So she really
Exactly.
she really stepped back for that. It was very good.
Yeah, very nice. And before we move on to the next one, I want to point out there are a couple people that are still working on their foam sculptures. And when I say something like it needs to be smooth, Nicole did an incredibly good job smoothing it out. This is really nicely sanded, nicely smoothed. And this is the kind of surface that I'm talking about. So I just want to mention that. But yeah, really good critique as well. So let's go on to the next one here. Let's see, share this tab. All right, there we go. All right, can you see this, Emily?
Yep.
Okay.
So this is the artistic critique for my own work. And I chose the chicken wire sculpture. So for the description, I would say it's definitely like an abstracted form of a bird or a chicken. You can see it has a beak. The two little things right there, that was intentional. It was supposed to be a beak. It was definitely like as simple as I could, or the artist, whatever. It seems like it is a simple beak, and you can tell it has 3 like tail feathers, which adds to the sense of like a bird. For like the form and like the composition of the body, it's very, I mean, wiry and like very stringy and like pretty like chaotic or like buzzing, as the wires just seem kind of random. For the analysis, I think it's silly. I think I get a sense of fun from this, and I did have fun making it, so I wanted that to translate. Also, for more of the description, it's missing one of its original legs, which the owner after me made an artistic choice to remove a leg. So that's just how it is now. But I think the one leg kind of adds to it even more, gives it more like I don't know, like a sense of resilience or something. But that'll be for the last section. For the interpretation again, yeah, I think it goes back to, since it only has like one leg and it's like standing, you could maybe get a sense of like resilience or like strength or something. That's and this is reading probably deeper than I should, but maybe you can still be complete if you're missing parts, or if you have like a weird body, you're still like complete or something. For the judgment, yeah, I think overall this piece, if it was out of 10, just for me, like on my art judgment scale, it's like a 5 out of 10. Like if I saw this in a museum and it wasn't mine, I'd be like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like it's a little fun, it's a little silly, but I'd move away after about a 10-second glance. That's just how I am with this kind of sculpture. I think other people could get more out of it than me, hopefully. And yeah, I do get it. I do get a sense of like fun and like abstraction, and I did have fun making that. So I hope it like comes through. And yeah, I think that's it.
All right. With that, that one was kind of a fun one. It looks to me, Sam was the one that talked about how Dow's wire sculpture made him feel like he could have done better. And I wonder if this was done after that, because this feels like the artist is just a little deflated because it is a really interesting piece. And I think it deserves a little bit more um, uh, excitement on his part, because I thought it was a well done piece. But not critiquing the wire sculpture itself, critiquing the critique, I thought he did a pretty decent job. It's one of the things that I appreciate when you guys bring in outside stories to talk about it. Like we've had a critique where somebody's done research on an artist and or a subject and talked about that a little bit. And like Dow's self-critique on that own thing, we learned a little bit about what that image represented. And when Sam was talking about the next owner altered it, and how that could have changed the meaning, I thought that was really interesting. I thought that was worthwhile. And sometimes like if you're critiquing architecture, that is really good to know. If a building was built on 3 different stages, and understanding what each stage contributed to what the present building looks like is really good. So I appreciated that. What's your take, Emily, on this critique?
Yeah, I I was laughing when he was like, I give this a 5 out of 10. Because that's such an artist thing to say about your own work. Be like, it's not great. But
Yeah.
I think he gave it a great critique, and I don't think it's bad.
No, and I agree with you. It's and one of the problems is as artists when we look at our own work, we're not looking at that work for what it is. What we're looking at is that work in relationship to everything we learned making it and since we made it. And so it's never going, it is very rare that we evaluate a piece of work for actually what it is. And yeah, I appreciate you pointing that out because I think he should have given himself a higher score than 5 out of 10. But yeah, excellent. Now, I wanted to go back and revisit that final module again and talk about something. I did want to mention we have had a few people do these peer and self critiques, and as you can see, everybody that has submitted them has done a really good job. Very nice. So get those in as soon as you can. Uh, use this weekend to turn out all that stuff that you possibly can. Get that done. And I wanted to point out something else. Um, share with you our class page. Can you hear our dog whining in the background?
Not too much, just a little.
Just a little. Okay. Well, this is the whine she gives when she's super bored because both my wife and I are doing stuff right now. And she wants somebody to go and take her on a walk. Last week it was kind of scary. She was completely listless, no energy. It looked to us that she'd been gaining weight over the last month or two. And this last week, she was just really not feeling very good at all. So we finally got an online vet appointment. They looked at her, learned about her change in activity level, and told us we needed to take her to an emergency vet right away. And she had emergency surgery on Saturday, which if we had waited another day or two, the vet told us that she probably would have died. And that's one of the stressful components of having a pet is that they can't really articulate why they don't feel very good. But the vet that we went to, it's the first vet I've ever been to where everybody, when they were talking to your animal, sat on the floor to talk to them instead of forcing them up on a table. And they helped her out. They did everything really fast they needed to. And the dog now is feeling 1,000 times better. It's so much fun to see her feeling good enough to whine. So I'm not going to complain too much. Okay, so here's our modules. It's also the homepage for the class. And we're going to go to here in just a second, but I wanted to show you something really quick here. The attendance module, you open that up. We have attendance for each of the weeks. Again, attendance for the week of August 4th, that is not going to be official. I don't want you to stress about having to get that done. If you do elect to do it after we watch our meeting, then you will get extra points. But if you don't, you won't lose the points. And any questions, anything like that people have, email me and I'll talk about it on there as well. Now, I wanted to reiterate the extra credit element that everybody can get, and it's 10 points of extra credit. This is, you have an experience, you write a reflection of 300 words, applying the 4 tools of artistic critique to that experience. All right, go to gallery, watch a movie, scene from a movie, whatever. If you can write 300 words about it, you can do that for this. First, you introduce what you did. Say something like, I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about the final battle scene in Equilibrium with Christian Bale, where the director was also a stunt coordinator and invented something he called gun kata, and it was super cool. So you could do that. Then and that's your introduction. Then for each of these four, you talk about the description is it was a scene that lasted for this many minutes. It comes at the end of the movie where the good guy is only armed with a sword and he takes on all these people, and you describe what they're wearing, the choreography, all that kind of stuff. The analysis, what does it mean in context of the movie? Or I'm sorry, how do you think they put it together? You know, the actors all had a lot of training. They specifically placed. The person doing the costume design was paying attention to this and this, and you really made it stand out for this reason, fitting into the world of the movie. Interpretation, what does it mean in relationship to the story? What does it mean as the ultimate point of the movie? And then evaluation, what do you think about it? And the reason why I'm offering this as extra credit is because it gives you an opportunity to apply these four tools to any situation. And I have had nursing students, computer programmers, engineers, and first responders go through my classes. And they have told me consistently that in their jobs, these four tools have come in handy. So I am applying it specifically to art. That's what I'm teaching you guys how to use it. But these four tools of artistic critique apply to any situation to help you have a better handle on the situation, what needs to be done in regards to whatever the situation is. So that's what that extra credit is. And then we go down here under the final module. We talked about the final assignment already, and that will go live on the first day of finals. Okay, so start checking on that. Finals are from Tuesday morning, right after midnight, to Friday night at midnight. And so this will be released Monday night / Tuesday morning, so that as soon as you wake up, you'll see it. And I did want to mention that I would recommend very highly do your final at the beginning of the week. As soon as you see it, do it, because I will tell you your grade on the final is not the final grade for that. If you miss a couple of points, double check what I say, the comments that I make, and you can fix it and then go and resubmit it. As long as you do that before Friday at midnight. I cannot make any exceptions on that. Even if you have to turn in a bunch of other stuff a couple days late after Friday, I cannot make any exceptions for the final. It has to be done Friday at midnight. All right. But what I do want to do is talk about the student SRI. Now, the student SRI, this is something where you get an instant 2% boost in your final grade. You see, 2 people have already turned that in. 2 people got a 2% boost on the final grade. Your grade is a percentage out of 100, and that relates directly to a letter score. This 2% can easily raise your grade most of the time by a half grade. If you're at an A minus is 90% to 92, and an A is 93. If you are getting an A minus and it's like 91%, you have the 2% increase, it becomes 93%, and your grade goes up to an A. So I highly recommend. SRI is student rating of instructors, and you do have that as an email. The link is in an email, but also if you go to your UVU student homepage, a link to the SRI should be at the top right-hand corner, I believe. And if any of the people that have already submitted this that have graded it, and you don't get a number grade for this, what you get is a completed, and then at the end of the term, after you've turned everything in, I add that bump to your final percentage grade. But if anybody who's done these before, if you can tell me where to find that link, then next Wednesday I will share that again, but I'm pretty sure that it's either in the email. Everybody will have gotten an email if they're registered for this class that gives you a link to it. But also, if you go to your student interface homepage, the link should be at the top right hand corner of that. So that is that. I hope all of this has made sense. And I wanted to iterate before we close tonight, because this is everything that I needed to cover tonight. I wanted to iterate before we go that I've left comments. If you didn't get a perfect score, I've left comments about how to change it so it fits close to the parameters of the assignment. Like one thing, if you didn't get all the points you wanted to for your cocooning assignment, more often than not, it's because one of the critical elements of the cocooning assignment is that the silhouette of the object must be fundamentally different. And usually that just means you add more stuff when you're cocooning it. So you do that, resubmit it, and then you get more points. So one thing that I am noticing about the contemporary stuff is people's write-ups consistently have been very thoughtful and very articulate. And I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that. It is very difficult for me, we're artists because we typically are not professional writers. And it can be very difficult when you're used to expressing yourself visually. It can be very difficult to try to articulate that in any sort of meaningful way, because you know what you want to say inside your head, but having it come out verbally, it can be a challenge sometimes. And what I'm noticing in this semester particularly is that in people's write-ups, you guys consistently are surprisingly articulate, and you think things through really, really well. And I appreciate that so much, because I can't tell you over the years how many things I've read coming from artists that don't use spell checkers, that don't use elements to check their grammar or put in punctuation. And I am so pleased this class, you guys have really done a good job with that. So thank you very much. All right, again, get everything done by Friday the 8th at midnight. Get everything submitted, particularly quizzes and discussions. Those two things need to be done, quizzes and discussions, so that because you won't have access to those at all after Friday, even if I told you you could turn stuff in late. And if you are really pretty far along on an assignment, but you think you need a little bit more time, copy out the assignment description and everything, and make sure that you've got that. You're following that really well for when you turn in your items. I went quiet because I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to cover tonight. Emily, do you have any questions, or is there anything that you think other students might have questions about?
I was just looking through email and trying to find the instruct, like rate your what's this called again? Rating, student instructor ratings. That's
It's the SRI, Student Rating of Instructor.
that's what it is, SRI. Yeah, I was just trying to find that because I did get an email today about rating something, but I think that's more about the overall experience at UVU, not just this class. So I might have to keep looking for that.
Yeah, and everybody should have gotten that. I know that the email went out last week. So
I
double
see.
check, look at the deleted things. Just do a search for SRI in your emails. Look through your deleted emails, and you should find that. And if you can't find it, you can also, and you don't see the link in your interface page, email your counselor, your enrollment counselor, and they can send you a new link as well, or they can walk you through.
I just found it. I just searched SRI. I got it on Saturday.
Okay, all right, good, excellent. So everybody who took this class, you should have gotten that email Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So just do a search and find it, and that will give you the link. And again, if you don't see that email, there is a link on your homepage. And if you can't find that link, contact your enrollment counselor, and they should be able to get the link for you, email you a new one. All right. Is there anything that we covered today that needs to be clarified?
No, I think it was all very clear, and I'm excited to see everyone's final projects.
Yes, so am I. And there's still some stuff that needs to be done. Again, your final project needs to be put up on the discussion board, and then you need to write that 80 word critique about the works of 3 other students, or the one work of 3 other students that it's in that discussion board. So, and as if you are submitting something and I have not graded it, please do not hesitate. Email me right away and let me know, hey, this hasn't been graded yet, and I will take care of it as soon as possible. When I see that people have resubmitted stuff, I try to get that regraded as soon as I see the resubmission. And if you need to talk to me about any of the items that have been graded already, please email me. And a number of people have done that. I have spoken to a few people through FaceTime or Teams, and the work turned in afterwards has been just exceptional. So I really appreciate those of you who have taken the time to do that. All right. Well, it has been an incredible semester. You guys have been doing some really amazing stuff. And I look forward to seeing you on UVU campus. If anybody is on campus next Friday, they have the Friday food truck stuff again. And that is always a lot of fun. They have some really good food truck stuff coming up. And UVU, since they have them on campus, they make sure that they are really top of the line food trucks. President Jimenez, I think she's astounding. She is one of the best university presidents I have ever encountered. And this thing, things like this are just the fun things that different departments on campus do that she supports. So, if you guys are around August 8th, when the food trucks are there, they have some really, really good food. All right, guys, thank you so much. And for those of you who want to show up next Wednesday, again, is an optional attendance thing. And you can either show up live or you can watch the recording later, because I will post that as well. And if you have any questions that need to be covered in that, please email me right away and let me know. Other than that, you guys are doing a great job. Keep it up. Keep turning stuff in, and let me know as soon as you do so I can make sure and grade it. Thank you so much. And thank you, Emily, for being here tonight. I hope everybody has a wonderful week and weekend, and I look forward to seeing y'all next Wednesday.
Thank you. You have a good weekend too.
Thank you very much. We'll see you.
Bye.